Hey guys, it's J-Mac again, talking to you at the hidden monitor to my right. Last time we spoke, I was analyzing a VOD clip at 0.25 speed to determine if there was indeed video evidence of a third monitor in Queen Pwnzalot's setup, and I came to the conclusion that there was. This was a pretty big revelation at the time due to the lack of hard video evidence of its existence, and I fully expected to make a follow-up video about wherever the story went next, such as proving that OBS was on that screen or something like that. What I was not expecting was for not just one, but two of Queen Pwnzalot's moderators to get into a call with Asmongold and just casually discuss the third monitor as if there wasn't a controversy surrounding it. Before I continue, I was going to look through Queen Pwnzalot's VOD to grab some clips and maybe search for additional evidence, but wouldn't you know it, the VOD is subscribers only now. I think someone's trying to stop people from investigating it. Before we dive in, if you like videos like this one or the occasional gameplay video, why don't you give that subscribe button a little bit of love? I plan on making more videos like this in the future, and your subscription would really help support the channel. Thanks. Now let's get back to the content you came here for. When I first heard about the call, I thought it was just going to be a relatively short call talking about the third monitor and whether or not it exists, hopefully including an admission of some kind. But what I actually received was a complete and thorough demonstration of three people's lack of knowledge about blindfolded running and the actual evidence being presented. It's very clear to me that they believe the evidence to be nothing more than lies, or things made up by people who don't understand Elytron fights. There were four people who joined the call at some point. The first was Dapper, the moderator and certified physician who initiated the call and is the star of the show, and two other defenders. McGleaves, who didn't speak his name very clearly, so that's the closest I'm gonna get, is the second moderator and is in charge of the technology side of streaming. And Azrael, an Elytron boss fight expert with 8,800 Elytron kills. He taught Queen Pwnzalot everything she knows about Elytron. The fourth was a blindfolded runner named Mitchriz, who does blindfolded runs of Sekiro. Mitchriz helped Queen Pwnzalot set up the second run, giving her pointers about the proof standards and also recommending the blindfold that she used. It's also very important to point out that he said to her, and I quote exactly, "If you only show that the monitors in front of you are turned off, then it is always possible to have a monitor that isn't shown on the camera unless you set up like 10 cameras to capture every inch of the room." He also told her that a cheater could use that hidden monitor to cheat. While he's willing to give Queen Pwnzalot the benefit of the doubt, he also settled for a 97% chance that the run was faked given all the evidence. His perspective was quite interesting throughout the call, and I'll be citing his words when I feel it necessary. I'm going to get the second moderator and Azrael out of the way right at the beginning, so I can focus on Dapper for the rest of the video, because Dapper's arguments were the most significant, and he was the main part of the call. The second moderator was in charge of the tech. He and Asmongold talked about why Queen Pwnzalot can't just turn off her monitors, and I am thoroughly uninterested in that part of the conversation. Queen Pwnzalot will just have to turn off her monitors if she wants to do this again. His other contribution was to say that Control and Alt keys recenter the camera in Monster Hunter. He believes that Queen Pwnzalot didn't cheat and successfully did the blindfolded run on the basis that he's seen her defeat Elytron in person while not blindfolded. Thank you, next. Azrael has an impressive career with 8,800 Elytron kills. However, he shared none of his expertise in the call. Instead, his only contributions were to say he believes Queen Pwnzalot's run is legit because he saw her do it in a Discord call. He believes OBS wasn't on the third monitor because he's seen her setup before. He did not see the setup on the day of the stream, though. Truly, some of the most compelling arguments of all time. Thank you. Next. Now that that's out of the way, I can actually talk about what I wanted to talk about. To start the call off, our favorite physician called anyone who investigated and presented evidence of cheating or improper behavior CSI investigation experts, and it's clear he meant it as an insult. We're off to a great start. Dapper's defense can largely be characterized by the phrases, "I just know," and "it's not impossible, just improbable." These two phrases are used multiple times throughout the call, and often to frustrating effect. He claims to not be knowledgeable at blindfolded speedrunning, but at the same time makes seemingly authoritative claims about blindfolded runs. He believes Queen Pwnzalot's run is legitimate because he has apparently seen her do it live, multiple times, in the same room. I'm not sure if this means if he's seen her do it blindfolded live multiple times, or if it simply means that he's watched her kill Elytron multiple times. At the same time, though, Billy Mitchell also had people in the room with him when he achieved his fake Donkey Kong scores, so I don't think that's the argument that anyone should be leaning into. Dapper, if you're watching this, I just know isn't a good defense. You say you welcome skepticism, but you dismiss and reject all evidence of wrongdoing. In your own words, you are biased. I think it's time to recognize that bias and understand that it's blocking you from seeing what's right in front of your face and right in front of everyone else's faces. Now, let's talk about blindfolds. In the call, Dapper repeatedly said the blindfold Queen Pwnzalot wore in her second run was one recommended to her by Moderators, who, as we've established, is an expert in blindfolded runs. However, it's been repeatedly demonstrated by multiple runners, such as Juicy, that she was almost certainly wearing the blindfold incorrectly and was therefore able to see a third monitor. Moderators himself, later in the call, cited all the possible ways that one could peek through that blindfold. Pop quiz. When presented with this information, do you think Dapper A. acknowledged that blindfolds could be worn incorrectly, B. argued that she was wearing hers correctly, or C. completely ignored it and insisted that it was just the correct blindfold? Please God, stop talking about it. If you chose C, you're absolutely correct. At multiple points, he dodged the question about the blindfold, only focusing on the fact that it's the one experts use, so there's no way she could be cheating with it. Dapper was so unwilling to acknowledge the point that when Zach mentioned Juicy's video in which he wears the same blindfold incorrectly and is able to see on a third monitor, and asked Dapper if Queen Pwnzalot could have done the same thing, Dapper insisted that Queen Pwnzalot didn't do that because she wasn't looking at her third monitor. He didn't even mention the part about the blindfold being worn incorrectly. I believe, based on the evidence provided by Juicy and the details provided by Moderators, that she was not wearing the blindfold correctly and was therefore able to look at a screen, most likely her third monitor. I think that brings us to the elephant in the room. Dapper very casually confirmed that the third monitor is real and that it was uncovered during the run. However, when pressed on whether Queen Pwnzalot was looking at it and playing through OBS, he vehemently denied that she was. When asked how he knew that Queen Pwnzalot wasn't looking at OBS, he answered simply, "I just know." We now know, without a shadow of a doubt, that there was a third monitor. We know, both from the phone reflection and from Dapper's comments, that it was turned on, uncovered, and displaying chat. We know for a fact that the cameras were set up in such a way that the third monitor is hidden from our view. Dapper's excuse was pretty simple. OBS was not on that monitor, and she thought the monitor was irrelevant. They tried to have it in the camera shot with her hands, but they couldn't set it up properly without having a third camera, which she does not own. Dapper's excuses, however, don't explain Queen Pwnzalot's behavior. She would frequently look over at the third monitor, as if something was there. At one point, she started to read a chat message about the video being unedited, and she stopped herself mid-sentence. She turned to look at the left monitor, which was already covered, and she lifted the paper to pretend to read it from over there. If the third monitor was truly irrelevant, and it did not have any game information on the screen, why was she so keen on pretending it wasn't there? And if it only had chat, why didn't she cover it anyways? She's blindfolded. It wouldn't matter if she couldn't see chat on the screen. But that isn't even the most certain or the most damning evidence of her cheating. It's just the most probable way that she cheated. Let's look at the evidence. Before the run, OBS and Monster Hunter World were on Queen Pwnzalot's central monitor. The input detection software picked up a long left click, followed by a movement to the right. No other similar inputs happened in a leftward direction. At the end of the run, OBS was no longer present on the central monitor. After the run, she moves her mouse to the right, looks to the right, clicks, and the scene changes. This is where I'd be putting the footage of the VOD if it was public. Future JMac here, and if I sound excited, it's because I am. So I just got a DM on Twitter from Abyssoft. He sent me a video by a content creator named Space Equestrian. Space Equestrian managed to catch the clip of the VOD where Queen Pwnzalot takes her mouse, moves it to the right, and clicks in the third monitor to change the scene in OBS. This is huge. I'm going to put a clip of his video here, but I encourage you to go show him some love, subscribe to his channel, and watch his video for yourself. Thank you.
So if we look right here, if we look on the second monitor, if we look down here, we can see the mouse is going to be moving up. Let's see here. Where is the mouse? There it is. And it moves up to the right. Okay. To her third monitor. And then let's look down here. Any moment she's gonna click, and the moment she does, transition to a new scene in OBS. She manually clicked. Let's pause that. She manually clicked inside OBS to change her scene. She moved her mouse to the right. Her OBS is on her third monitor on the right.
It's time to talk about the impossible actions and camera movements in the run, and Dapper's baffling defense of them. First off, I'm not going to retread all of the evidence. Bitsoft's video does a great job of that, and if you're interested, you should go watch it. Asmongold only talked about camera movements, but other impossible actions included things that have no sound cue attached to them and are therefore impossible blindfolded. Dapper's defense of these actions can be summarized with, it's not impossible, just improbable. His defense is based on the idea that once you've killed a boss enough times, and when you've been taught the right way to do it, it becomes basically muscle memory, and that even camera balancing is not that hard to do. He simply believes that it's too early in blindfolded running, and the new things like that could be discovered at any time, specifically in Monster Hunter. I want to make this next part very clear. Blindfolded speedrunning is not new. In fact, it's based clearly on the whole concept of being blindfolded and the limitations that puts on your body. It's not in its infancy. It's been around for years. By no means is it too early for such a discovery to be made. Monster Hunter is also not special. It doesn't have unique camera movement tech that hasn't existed before it in the dozens of other games that have had a blindfolded community for far longer. No one anywhere is able to match the level of precision that Queen Pwnzalot has. It's well established that muscle memory more or less doesn't exist beyond simple motor functions like walking, how to ride a bike, typing, handling a controller, basic simple things like that. It does not extend to a complex series of actions like a 20-minute boss fight or an hour-long speedrun. Your fingers have the muscle memory to handle the controls, but they do not have the memory for an entire sequence that relies on visual cues and audio cues to work. If you don't believe me, I welcome you to put on a blindfold, find your way to your car, and start your car perfectly without tripping over anything, without running into any obstacles, and without missing anything like the keyhole or the handle or the doorknob. It's a route you've walked 1,000 times, so it should be possible, right? No, and I am baffled about how a physician doesn't understand that. It's why blindfolded runners make use of what are called normalized strategies, consistent strategies and techniques for which the outcome is always the same. Things like locking onto the boss, or making specific movements that always have the same outcome every single time. Audio cues are not enough, and in the case of Queen Pwnzalot, often non-existent. The consistent head tracking, for example, has no audio cues. Mitriz said during the call that Queen Pwnzalot's movements while blindfolded were humanly impossible, and he is 100% correct. He pointed out that she used Alt only twice to center the camera, and only in the second run, and the rest of her camera adjustments were made manually using her mouse. He also speculated that an argument will be made about 3D audio being used to pinpoint vertical locations, but also pointed out, 1. Headphones aren't great at 3D audio for vertical, and 2. Human ears are even worse at determining up and down from sounds. Once again, this is something that I am shocked a physician doesn't know. One of Dapper's main points of contention is that Queen Pwnzalot was being held to a different standard than everyone else. A higher standard, even. But let's pause there for a second. Had her first video been of a legitimate blindfolded run with a proper blindfold and no impossible actions or camera movements, that would be all the proof she needed. The only reason she's being held to a higher standard of proof is that she has been credibly accused of cheating. Her blindfold in the first run was see-through. Her camera movements were humanly impossible for a blindfolded run. She was also caught lying about the first blindfold. It could be argued that she's being treated more fairly than other cheaters, in fact. Most of the time, when a runner is accused of cheating, if the evidence is clear, they aren't given a do-over run. They are only given a do-over if the evidence isn't clear. They're perhaps given a chance to explain themselves, and they are almost always removed from the community. Queen Pwnzalot is given a rare second chance here. Dapper frequently asks what the standards of proof would need to be. How much does she need to prove? If the camera movements are the main contention, can't she just do a portion of the run instead of the full run to demonstrate that she can do those camera movements that everyone says are impossible? Normally, a third chance isn't given. Ever. And I don't personally think she's earned a third chance. But if there were to be a third chance, the following would need to be satisfied for me to be satisfied. It is absolutely necessary that Queen Pwnzalot be held to the maximum standard of proof if she is given a third chance. 1. There needs to be a qualified human witness in the room, someone from the blindfolded run community. They need to verify that she is properly blindfolded and that all other standards of proof are met. 2. Proof that the game is unmodded and there is no remote access. This can either come in the form of playing on a machine that isn't her own and is set up for her, or she needs to demonstrate it on her own machine before and after the run. 3. Discord and any other voice chat software need to be closed. 4. All monitors need to be turned off. Not just covered, but turned off. 5. There needs to be a camera pointed at her hands, a camera pointed at her face, and a camera showing her entire setup. 6. There needs to be input tracking software visible on the stream. 7. It has to be the entire run, not just some small portion of the run. And finally, any additional rules or proof standards set out by blindfolded run experts. In conclusion, everything in this call only serves to further solidify my belief that Queen Pwnzalot faked her blindfolded runs. First, we now know for a fact that there was a third monitor, and none of the excuses for why it was neither covered nor shown on camera are satisfactory. Second, we have strong evidence that OBS was on that third monitor. OBS started on the main monitor, and then she long-clicked and moved her mouse to the right. At the end of the run, OBS was no longer on the main monitor, and she moved her mouse to the right and looked to the right, and clicked to change the scene. Third, the evidence that the run is legitimate was purely that the moderators have seen her beat Elatrion in person, not necessarily that they saw her do it blindfolded. The only person who claims that saw it in a Discord call. 4. Both of the moderators either admitted or thoroughly demonstrated their total lack of knowledge about blindfolded runs. And 5. It has been thoroughly proven that Queen Pwnzalot's camera movements were humanly impossible. There is no muscle memory to explain it. No excuse would explain it. At the end of the day, Queen Pwnzalot is still clearly very skilled at what she does. You don't get 4,000 kills on a very difficult boss without being skilled at it. None of the claims of cheating from the experts are discounting her skill or saying that she isn't skilled. They aren't even saying that she couldn't theoretically do a blindfolded run eventually. All that's being said right now is that the 2 examples we have on record are not real. And I agree with that assessment. Alright everyone, that's the end of the video. If you liked this video, go ahead and give that like button a little bit of love. If you didn't like it, or if you're a physician, might as well dislike it while you're here. Anyway, I'll be reading through the comments, so go ahead and tell me what you think down there. And if you want to see more of what I do, go ahead and give that subscribe button a little bit of love. As always, stay freaky, my friends. Bye-bye.